What's up guys, my name is Single Player Nacho, and welcome back to Before and After, the series where we look at a video game's first build and compare it to the final product. We're looking at Resident Evil 2, but this is a unique situation in that the first build for it was actually a final build, but was cancelled because Capcom just wasn't happy with the product and decided to start from scratch. This build is known as Resident Evil 1.5 for that reason. A group of extremely talented coders and modders were then able to pick apart some of the leaked code of the cancelled RE2 and is in playable form through emulators. Originally set for a 1997 release date, it would take another year for the Resident Evil 2 we know and love to be released in 1998. It's a sad case to erase all that hard work, but even more depressing is the fact that Resident Evil 1.5 was being fully marketed in video game magazines. You've heard of Resident Evil 2, but who the hell is Elza Walker? Jumping into Resident Evil 1.5, you'll notice the new girl, a motorcycle racing college student known as Elza Walker, complete with, well, motorcycle racing gear. Elza would then be replaced by Claire Redfield, who's more of a biker chick. Sure, it's easy to feel bad for Elza never seeing the light of day, but in terms of backstory, she's a little more empty. Elza was simply traveling to Raccoon City to start a motorcycling group, and that's it. In turn, Claire Redfield goes to Raccoon with purpose in search for her brother, Boulder Nazi Chris Redfield. The character switch was much more than cosmetic, as the writers thought about how Resident Evil 2 could tie into Resident Evil 1. A brother and sister backstory is much better than someone simply being there. The introductory stage in Resident Evil 1.5 is somewhat similar to the finished product, with a good amount of zombies spawning right off the bat. The fence in place holds them back for some easy target practice. The weaponry is definitely more diverse in this starting stage though, but this is a perfect way to explain the philosophical differences between the two builds. This stage makes you want to stay and shoot, whereas the first stage in Resident Evil 2 makes you want to run far, far away from the scene. The zombies are right next to you and you're given a knife and a handgun. The sense of horror is increasingly apparent in the final version. The mechanics between both builds are also different in tone. Shooting zombies in 1.5 is actually pretty fun rather than functional, but the tone is shifted when sure enough, zombies infinitely respawn. This is extremely different in RE2 where you kill them once and they're done for. Forever. Infinite respawns aren't the most interesting difference though. Tiny details like zombie blood spilling on our respective characters when shooting them, even receiving bite marks on uniforms, left visible damage that would carry on as we progress through 1.5. The zombies were also much more varied in their actions. They were faster and can be mutilated in many different ways. These small but interesting features speak towards what Capcom wanted thematically in the cancelled build. They wanted a game that was more action oriented, and in turn, Resident Evil 2 was developed from the ground up as a horror game. The death screen in the first build was also much more dramatic than the death scene in the final build. That's not to say that 1.5 didn't have any holy crap moments. You pull the wrong lever and, well, you're screwed. The K system is also similar in 1.5. Simple profile pics from RE2 are switched with graphical licenses for both characters, along with the cheesy item commentary. Let's take a look at character changes. Aside from the obvious Claire and Elza switch, a few minor characters in Resident Evil 2 would have had major parts in the first build. The very first character we interact with in Resident Evil 2 is gun shop owner Robert Kendo. For his lifespan of about 2 to 3 minutes, Robert questions the protagonist, proceeds to stand next to a glass window, which is the biggest no-no in any horror movie or video game, and gets a premium zombie bukkake. In the earlier iteration of Resident Evil 2, Robert was named John and was actually pretty integral to Elza's part of the story. He would have had a much longer lifespan, more interactions, and was supposed to kill Roy, another defunct character who was on his way to becoming a zombie. On Leon's side of the story in Resident Evil 2, you might or might not remember Marvin, one of Leon's cop buddies who was badly injured and hardly participates in the events of the game.
Sorry, but it looks like your party has been cancelled.
Yeah, that guy. Well, in Resident Evil 1.5, Marvin would have been Leon's sidekick, following him throughout the entire game, and was originally supposed to make it out alive with Leon. It's sad, but on a more logical note, the tonal differences come into play here once again. The reason why these supporting characters were killed off so quickly in the final game was to isolate the protagonist even more, making the game more horror than co-op action. Now here's a few more fast facts. Ada would have been named Linda and wasn't a spy originally. She would have been an Umbrella researcher / scientist. Leon was originally already a grizzled veteran cop instead of a rookie. Now that would have sucked. Lickers are nowhere to be found in 1.5, and God would we have lost an iconic enemy. Instead, the first build featured the somewhat similar manned spiders, who look pretty gruesome as well. Well, that about does it for this edition of Before and After. Thank you guys so much for watching. How amazing is it that just about anyone can play this cancelled build? It's awesome, and it's all thanks to the brilliant people that had to rework this entirely by themselves, and they didn't have to do it. That's the craziest part, but they did it because they cared. Links to the ROM will be in the description, so be sure to do some homework before you try to purchase this thing, because it is a bit tricky. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Comment down below any suggestions for this series, and as always, stay single.